first round of the season sees the F1 train arrive at Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix on the newly formed layout of the track, and it has come with a little bit of off-track politics in which the FIA have confirmed that the teams have rejected the sprint race format. Now, we've been seeing the sprint race format starting to be distributed across many other motorsport series, and of course, as we know, it has very much been prominent in F2 and in F3. However, when F1 had the opportunity, they have said no. It has been confirmed that 8 teams voted against the format change, with apparently only Jaguar and Red Bull voting for us to have sprint races, with there being such a strong majority against the decision to do sprint races. That has left the option for that formally closed for the time being. The majority of the teams feel that the format needs a lot more work before it becomes viable. The biggest issue that F1 teams have got currently with the sprint race format is the cautious approach that teams and drivers need to take in the sprint race in order not to compromise their main Grand Prix. Now it flips in two formats. There could be a driver that is starting well out of position that has an opportunity in the sprint race to make up places in order to then start the main event in a much better position. However, this has then been contrary to the fact that yes, I could go and battle for the lead and give it everything, but if I have a damaged front wing or if I retire or anything like that, then I will be starting at the back or even lower than where I initially qualified. Teams want to get into a situation whereby the sprint race doesn't affect the main event, and if that was the case, then there would be more backing from it. Mercedes are one of the teams that have confirmed they would back it if that was a situation that was indeed granted. Moving our attention now to the race weekend, and it was Porsche that showed great speed in practice. They were the fastest in all 3 sessions and showed great pace, especially on the long runs as well. But it shouldn't be so easy for them, as McLaren and Mercedes were very close behind in all 3 sessions, not only on the short runs but also on the long runs. They were averaging around about 1/10 of a second a lap slower in the long runs and about 0.2 of a second a lap slower in the short runs. And of course, with all the cars evolving as the weekend goes on, hopefully that gap will close through. One team that is definitely struggling heading into this weekend is Audi. They are on the back foot. Now, the biggest problem for Audi is they're not quite sure where they're actually slower at the moment. Having a look at all of the data and from what the drivers have said, both Charles Leclerc and Valtteri Bottas have stated that their car actually feels quite good. It's very stable and they're able to get the car to do kind of what they want to. The biggest problem is they're just too slow, and it's a really big problem for Audi in particular. They would prefer to have a car that's got a lot of problems and stuff that they can actually fix. But at the moment, they're just trying to figure out why they're so slow compared to everybody else, because there's no clear place on the car where they're having an issue. George Russell has hailed Jaguar's progress heading into this weekend. Of course, in pre-season testing, Jaguar were in a very difficult place. They had a fantastic front end of the car, but they really made a mess of the rear end of their car, and it caused massive rear instability. However, heading into this weekend, they've obviously taken a lot of learning from this, and they seem to be rather than competitive, especially in George Russell's hands, and he's been very happy with how he's been able to set up his car. That's the same too for Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault. Ricciardo, obviously coming into his home Grand Prix, looked very competitive actually heading into this weekend, and he'd be very much looking forward to doing that in front of his home crowd, of course. But who's going to come out on top? Will Porsche take the victory here this weekend, or can McLaren and Mercedes or anyone else spring up a little bit of a surprise heading into this weekend? Let's find out. It's time for the Australian Grand Prix. Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Foxydude here, and welcome back to the F1 journey. We are back for yet another season of this modded series, and we're here for round number 1, which is the Australian Grand Prix. If you guys end up enjoying the video, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well, and you enjoy the content that you do see. Now, before we get into things, a little bit of an issue which I found with the game, which I'm showcasing to you now. So, as things currently stand, there is currently no mod available to change the name of the drivers. There is a mod available that allows you to change the name of the team, which is great, but it doesn't help when in the classification section at the top there of track position, you kind of don't need the drivers' names there. So, as you can see, I'm basically disabling that right now. And then as we go through and carry onwards, the names stayed there. They don't stay there for the race, but for some reason in qualifying, they just wanted to stay there. I turned the opacity down to 0% and also hid the driver names, and they still didn't disappear until the race. So, not sure what's going on there, but I'll tell you what's going on there. A snap of oversteer on the exit of the last corner loses us a lot of time there, and across the line with a 1:14.5. Definitely not good enough as things stand, and we also need to change our front wing because we've damaged that piece. So let's go straight on board with it now. So here we go then. We've got one more last hurrah of this track. So let's give it everything we got then. Down in towards turn 1. So we break to 5th gear, nail the exit and the entry of that corner. Already 1 and a bit tenths up on our previous best lap there. So already gaining some time now as we go down in towards turns 3, which is a very difficult corner for me. Struggling a lot through there, but again, you can see we're just evolving and just getting better here as we gain another tenth and a bit through that section. Now we're 2.5 tenths up here on our previous best laps. We go through the end of the first sector, and we're currently up on a time to get higher than P16, but obviously we want a little bit more than that as we went flat out through that new corner. Of course, the new complex now here in Australia, where of course it is just a flat out stretch now going down in towards the middle sector here. So let's see how our lap time is comparing. We are gaining time as we go through in towards this left-right. We actually lost a little bit of time there, lost about a tenth of a second, too tentative towards the left-hander of the chicane, which cost me a bit of time there. Down in towards the turn 11 exit there, you can see we actually gained another tenth of a second, so finding time through there. But again, through this final sector now, just dropping a couple of hundredths here and there, which is costing us a little bit of time now. As we go around the final corner here, we're going to gain a little bit back. You can see again, we lost more time through there, which we end up gaining back on the exits. We cross the start-finish line. It's P11. So here we go then. As you can see, we are starting in P11 on the grid for the Australian Grand Prix. And it's a one-stop strategy. It's the medium to the hards. So let's just see how we get on, shall we? So we get the 5 lights on. Let's get them out. It is underway for Season 10 of the F1 journey. Horrible start there. A lot of wheel spin off the line, which has cost us dearly here as we now go down in towards turn 1 here. Have to sit the outside line to defend against the BMW there that was trying to go up our inside. And it's a 1-2 for Porsche. They lead the way then, as there's a massive gaggle of cars now that we need to try and navigate our way through. We need to be very careful about this, but I don't really make myself careful. We've actually just dive bombed it right down the inside into turn 3. Getting onto the curb down the exit there is Russell now in the Jaguar ahead, just about stays in front of us there. So fair play to George Russell as we're now going to go on board here, as we tend to do for the very first lap of each of the Grand Prix. So let's get straight into the action now, and let's see if we can close up to the back of Russell here. Of course, all of the AIs will be using their ERS batteries quite a lot here, and I can see that as Van Dorn in the Red Bull behind definitely getting closer now, but we're also closing in on George Russell as we go through in towards the chicane. This is a perfect opportunity for us to just really settle ourselves down, make sure that we've got a good understanding, a good feel of the car now, because we've got a good run here on Russell now. Going towards the outside line here, Russell very much defending or just weaving a little bit on track there, which very much casted me to doubt whether to go up the inside of Russell. In hindsight, I probably should have just sent it up the inside of George, but we didn't. So, as you can see, we're settling ourselves down, struggling through this last corner as we got one of the Ferraris into the pits early then. So, that's definitely not a time that they want to be boxing for a set of tyres. So they've obviously got some damage, and we're going to find out exactly who it was. It was Lando Norris that was the culprit of all this. So as they go now in towards the first corner here, Lando Norris has got the outside line just like we do, but he actually pinches himself to the apex there, and you can just see the front wing end plate coming off there. So Norris really lacks of concentration there. He had the move done really on Hamilton. He just had to be patient with it. It's on board from what it looked like from Sam, so he's again on the inside line as well. But look, Norris just needs to swoop around the outside here, but he doesn't. He tries to pinch the apex against Hamilton, but ends up just turning into him. So yeah, really bad driving there from Lando Norris. This is on board with Pierre Gasly now, a little bit further down the field. There's me directly in front, not getting a good start at all. So Gasly tries to go to the outside line, but eventually his move's actually blocked because I'm ending up swooping around the outside. But that is also allowed Gasly to get the move done there on the BMW of Nick De Vries. But De Vries now, as you can see here, is going to try and send it through up the inside, but he's now got an Audi up his inside as well. So everyone trying to make a couple of dive bombs here and there as the battle continues onwards in for De Vries. It ends up with him losing both places. That was really close there from Van Dorn on lap 2, and that's going to allow Oscar Piastri a run at him now down the straight here in towards turn 1. Will Piastri get the move done? He should do, but Van Dorn will, contact there between Van Dorn and Piastri as they went through in towards turns 1 and 2. That's going to allow home favourite Daniel Ricciardo to have a run here at Piastri down in towards turn 3. Now Piastri though goes back at Van Dorn. More contact made between the two of them now as they make their way through. Exit 3, and now they carry on their way as Perez there under pressure, but he gets past Van Dorn, Daniel Ricciardo in all of that. Lap 3 of the Grand Prix. Here is Sam now in the McLaren, and he's gone for a lovely move here around the outside of turn 11 on Lewis Hamilton. You can see we're right behind this at the moment. It is Sam versus Hamilton versus Russell versus me, and you can see it's just causing a DRS train here where one time one driver overtakes, the other time the other one overtakes. This is Hamilton's turn now to try and go down the inside here of Sam, and he tries it, but it doesn't work out for him. Sam on that occasion is able to defend the position. Lap 4 of the Grand Prix, and look at the lead that these two have got out front. This is a Porsche lead right now, but it's going to swap though, because Carlos Sainz takes the lead of the Australian Grand Prix, but due to the kerfuffles that have been going on further back, which is A, this battle, B, of course, on the first lap, Lando Norris was in P3 with a broken front wing. It's allowed the two Porsche cars to just streak clear, and of course, the battling that the two Porsche cars are doing is to a lot less extreme than what we're doing right now. As Sam there tries to go for a move up the inside of Hamilton. Everyone really wants to just try and send dive bombs on Lewis Hamilton, just like Lando Norris on the first lap. But yeah, Hamilton survives that one. But a little bit later on now, as we go on to the mid part of lap 5 here, we're getting a little bit impatient now. I can see the Porsche car, well, they're gone at this rate, the two Porsches out front. I know that, but I want to see if I can try and get involved in the race here in some ways. We have a little look there up the inside, but they just slow each other down a little bit. Really close to contact there between myself and Russell. I think we may have actually just tapped a little bit there. But as we now make our way towards the last corner, now I've decided I have to start making some moves here. As we strike now Russell, second to last corner. Not where you tend to go for overtake, but round the last corner, we hold it around the outside there. Open up the DRS on the exit. It's a great overtaking move there. And we're up into 5th place in this race as Piastri now has DRS here on Sergio Perez down in towards turn 1 as they make more contact there. That's actually Van Dorn. Perez has made more places up than I thought he had. Fair play to him. There you can see, double checking the vehicle condition, making sure I haven't smashed my front wing, and I hadn't. As you can see, Hamilton and Norris there having a little bit of fun up front, and that's allowed me to close up onto them. Next up now is going to be trying to get past both Norris and also Hamilton, because we're just losing so much time now to the Porsche cars ahead. They are literally non-existent. We can't see them at this rate as we're continuing to check the damages here. As you can see now, here comes Sam on an attack on Hamilton now as they go through down in towards the the chicane here. It's going to get close between these two, but who's going to get DRS crucially on the exit of that? Well, Hamilton has lost the position. We've gone wide though through the exit of the chicane there. That's put Russell in a great chance here to re-overtake us and snatch back 5th place in this Grand Prix. Hamilton's got DRS and Sam. He passes him. Russell tries to go for the inside on us, but we got the outside line there and we hold position against George. P5 stays in our favour, but we are fighting so hard in the early exchanges of this Australian Grand Prix. It is royally screwing us. Lap 7 of the Grand Prix. Here's what it should be like to battle at the front of the field, because there goes Reese on a lovely executed overtake there of his teammate Carlos Sainz. And the two of them, crucially, they're doing that. Now, if you look at it, we're not doing that. This is lap 7 of the Grand Prix. Same lap, I think. And this is the difference. They're side by side here through this corner, and that's cost Norris some time. We're now trying to get through. I keep calling the McLaren of Sam Norris, and I need to stop doing that. It's going to take me a long time to get used to, well, getting everybody's names correctly. But as you can see now, onto the straight here, we now need to try and have a run at Sam and also Lewis Hamilton here, who's unfortunately under pressure from Sam. He's going to go around the outside of turn 3. Not really where you want to do that, is Sam tries to hang it around the outside, turns to the inside for the next corner, but he's been hung out to dry by Hamilton. We're going to stick through on the inside, and that's a massive oversteer there on the exit from us, but extremely opportunistic. Great teamwork as well, actually, from myself and Lewis Hamilton to execute that move to perfection. Here's lap 8 of the Grand Prix now, and there goes Carlos Sainz here, trying to get back past Reese for the lead of the Australian Grand Prix, but the back end slides for the pair of them on the exit. Unfortunately for Carlos Sainz, he won't get that move done, but he's got DRS here to try again. Not going to work, unfortunately, on that occasion. He is going to have to settle back and try again at another point here. DRS now is going to be enabled for me here as we now have a run on Hamilton down in towards turn 3. We're going to go for it down the inside. Big lockup from Lewis Hamilton there in towards turn 3. That's really going to cost us some time here as we swoop round the outside all over the curb there. But we just about get the job done on Lewis Hamilton, and we're up into 3rd place in this Grand Prix. The crucial factor is now, can we pull away from these guys? Do we have enough pace? And on early indication, we might just have so, as all of a sudden now, Hamilton's going to get swarmed here. Everyone around him has got DRS. Piastri has got DRS. He's past Sam. Now Piastri trying to go for it on Hamilton, as unfortunately the frames in my actual recording dropped a little bit during this bit, so don't worry, it's not a rendering, it's not an editing issue, it's not your own PC or your mobile devices. It is my recording software at the time. Actually, it was my PC at the time, not my recording software. Our recording software just recorded crap FPS. But as we go down the straight now here to start lap 10, everybody wants to get into the action here. Sam is trying to go down inside of Piastri and Hamilton. Hamilton is forced out to dry. Piastri gets on through. Van Dorn now gets past Sam in all those exchanges. Piastri and Hamilton don't have DRS. Everybody else has got DRS behind them. Look at the train of cars now that are all just flurrying their way through. Sam has repassed Lewis Hamilton in this race for 6th place, I believe, and now all of a sudden he's on the back of Piastri as we go on to lap 10 of the Grand Prix, further ahead in fact on lap 10. Here is the battle before the race later here as Sainz tries to have a look at Reese through towards the chicane, but he thinks better of it and just goes, you know what, I've got DRS on this next straight, I'm going to use that instead. And that's exactly what he does here, is he uses that to his advantage and around the outside into turn 11. There's the job done, but unfortunately for Sainz, one lap later, it's going to cost him another position. As you can see here, here comes Reese now, trying to go around the outside. This might get a little bit more close between the two of them. Contact made there between the two cars. Luckily for them, no damage. Annoyingly for me, they didn't get damaged because at the moment, I'm currently in P3. I've now pulled away from this scrap here as Sam there goes around the outside of Piastri. There's my car there. You can see how crucially these battles are just allowing me to pull away and allow myself a little bit of time to really delve into a rhythm and try, and in quotes, try and close up to the two Porsche drivers. But it's proving to be a tricky task. Lap 13 of the Grand Prix, and we're coming in for our first stop, on our only stop of the Grand Prix, as there goes one of the Porsche cars. That's Reese actually staying out, as there is the one Porsche car of Carlos Sainz that is in, as we box now for a fresh set of tyres, and that's not going to help us at all in the slightest. One of the disadvantages that we're going to get in this season of the F1 journey is our pit lane is right at the very front, which means that we're going to get held up in traffic quite some bit, and that's something that for the rest of the season I'm going to be taking into massive consideration, because I cannot afford to be held up in the pits there. That's a good 3 seconds lost in all of that, which is a disaster for us. As you can see, I'm now trying to warm up the tyres a little bit. There's an issue there for one of the Jaguars, and I'm not sure what happened, and I didn't actually end up getting a replay of it, but all that issue of the pit stops plus the tyre warm-ups has meant that Lewis Hamilton has rejoined in front of us now in this Grand Prix. So as we now go onto the straight here, no DRS because we were not in the detection zone here, but we've got our tyres up to temperature. So we're going to go down the insides here of Lewis Hamilton, make the move stick, and then it's job done. Back up into P3 in this Grand Prix. But it has significantly closed us down now, particularly between myself, Hamilton, and Oscar Piastri. He is involved in this battle now for 3rd place, and it's getting to a point where we kind of just have to accept that the Porsche cars today are absolutely rapid, and it's pretty much about seeing if we can get a podium, unless they battle so hard that it brings us into play, like what Reese and Hamilton did back at the Austrian Grand Prix last season, as DRS now will be enabled for Lewis Hamilton on this straight, and I'm not even going to fight this one. Absolutely no point through there. Hamilton definitely using a lot of his battery, which they tend to do, the AIs, especially when they've just come out of the pits that first lap. They do tend to use it. So on that occasion, I just decided the best thing to do was to let Lewis Hamilton through. And obviously, as you can see now, I'm going to have a double dose of DRS here to get back into range. Hamilton has decided to just let himself loose a little bit here as we go in towards the first corner now. Let's see how we can do versus Hamilton. Not too bad through all of that. And now as we go on to the second straight here, DRS is enabled for us once again. Can we get close to Lewis Hamilton? Can we maybe go for a move on Lewis Hamilton as we go for it? Hamilton does lock up though. He locks up significantly to the point where we've actually gone into the back of Hamilton there. Hamilton's gone wide off the circuit, and Oscar Piastri has actually passed Lewis Hamilton as well as us passing him too. Crucially though, no damage to the front wing there. It's just a very small tap to the back of Hamilton's car, but it was enough to unsettle him even more to the point where he went wide here. But now all of a sudden, we find ourselves under pressure from the Ferrari of Oscar Piastri on this now. We need to really defend this position. Piastri to the outside. We're going to go to the inside, defend the position heavily. In that circumstance, if that was Lewis Hamilton in the previous lap, I would not be fighting that one. As Sainz there, that's not Ocon, by the way. Again, I can't change the driver name, so the fastest lap comes up randomly. If I end up doing it, I'll let you know who got the fastest lap. On that occasion, it was Carlos Sainz. Speaking of battles, though, here comes Piastri to fight again versus us now, but he actually locks up there and allows us a free switchback maneuver. So thank you very much for that, Oscar. And as you can see, the quintet of cars, there's actually more than that. I don't know what a six-car train is. Are all back in formation again. It is me, Piastri, Hamilton. Then they've got Sam, and then we've got, I believe, Van Dorn and Russell are all involved in this as we go on to the start-finish right here. I'm under pressure now in towards the first corner. I'm going to have Hamilton on the inside. I'm going to have Piastri on the outside. We're going to get squeezed in the middle here. Piastri gets sent out wide. Hamilton now is going to swoop around the outside of turn 2 here. Now as they go onto the straight here, Piastri and Hamilton both got DRS. Someone's going to give in all of this. Hamilton's going to go to the inside of turn 3. Piastri's going to hold it though. And then into turn 4, he's got the position secured. He stays where he belongs in P4. Well, technically Hamilton should really be there. I'd like him to be there anyway. Lap 19 of the Grand Prix now, and again, we're just doing our best here. Unfortunately, it's not Alex Albon, it's Daniel Ricciardo that's out of the race. One of the home favourites for this Grand Prix. His engine has failed. The Renault E-Tech hybrid has gone in the back of that Renault, and he is out of this Grand Prix. Lap 18 of this race though, and guess who we're looking at? It's the two Porsche cars. They're still fighting up front. They're just not giving each other an inch of space here as they go in towards turn 1, and oh, that's really close there from Carlos Sainz versus Reese. Reese got a better exit here, but Sainz will have DRS now down towards turn 3. Reese is trying to stay side by side here. Absolutely useless when Sainz has got DRS. Sainz stays ahead, well, until lap 20 when we go back on board with them and he has to re-overtake Reese again. I didn't catch when Reese passed him, but down the inside goes good old Carlos, but Reese on this occasion fends the position off nicely. Now they're going to go side by side through here, and there they go through is Carlos Sainz, and I'm surprised that didn't get pulled there for the yellow flag and all of that, but there we go. But guess what? They're still fighting each other because Reese now with the DRS here is going to swoop now down in towards the turn 11, but it's going to get close again between the two of them. Oh, Reese went a little bit wide though, just outbroke himself ever so slightly. That's allowed Sainz a little bit of breathing room now as we go back on board here on lap 20 with, I believe this is Sam, not sure who he's attacking. It's Hamilton who's attacking now as we go down in towards the first corner. There is Piastri just ahead of ourselves, and as you can see, unfortunately for Sam, it's not quite worked out in his favour. Lap 22 of the Grand Prix though, Sam is attacking Piastri. Missed where, I didn't catch when Hamilton caught up and passed Piastri. In fact, I'll be totally honest with you, there was battles going on absolutely everywhere. I had no idea who to catch on at some points. Unfortunately, some overtakes have been missed because I've had to catch other ones instead and mix up who's doing what. Speaking of mixing things up, here is Pato Awards. Now, Pato Awards started last in this race. He's actually doing a decent recovery. He's still not in the points yet, but he's going to swoop his way around the outside of Mason Wood and make the move stick there. So good job from Pato Awards, and he gets past Mason Wood. Lap 24 of the Grand Prix. Now, ever since Lewis Hamilton got past Piastri and Piastri got involved in a battle with Sam, it's actually meant that those lot have all been scrapping really hard now, and that's allowed me and Hamilton to pull away and effectively do what Porsche have been doing all race long out front, battling between each other. And as you can see now, down in towards the chicane here, Lewis Hamilton has got DRS, and well, he's so close. Is there any point in me defending the position? No, I'm not going to. I'm going to be smart about this one. Obviously, if it was, a Sam, there they are, look. In fact, you can see on the mini-map there, just going through turn 11. If that was the likes of Sam or Piastri or whatever, speaking of Sam and Piastri, here they go on lap 25 for a battle, I would be defending very, very hard. But the fact that it's my teammate Hamilton, we need to show an element of respect, and that's exactly what we are doing. As Sam, meanwhile, though, makes a lovely overtake there on Piastri, round the outside of 3, confirms it into 4, and carries on his way. Lap 25 on our perspective now, and we close up to the back of Hamilton once again. We've got a yellow flag just behind, though. Someone's had a problem there, but for us, though, the only problem is can we pass Lewis Hamilton without making any form of contact here. Hamilton decides to defend to the inside line, so Hamilton wants to scrap properly here, round the outside, though, of Lewis Hamilton, and the job is done for us in this Grand Prix, and that is us now back up into third place. And someone did DNF in the Grand Prix. I can confirm to you guys, it was Stoffel van Dorn that DNF from the race, as we're back on board here with Reese, who's trying to go for it here on Carlos Sainz again, down in towards turns 3 and then 4. Can he make this move stick? They're going to go side by side and carry on the battle a little bit longer. Sainz, though, gets that inside line. That's what he needs to keep the position against Reese in that fight. And now they'll carry on again a little bit further up the road now to Reese. Now we go side by side here with Carlos Sainz. They're really showing no quarters now. We're getting to the latter stages of the Grand Prix. It is looking to be a Porsche 1-2 unless they cause a crash and cost themselves those positions. But if it is going to be a Porsche 1-2, who's going to get it? Well, Sainz has got DRS. Reese is going to go back alongside Sainz, but luckily towards the end of the straight, the effect of the DRS comes into play, and that allows him to stay in front. And Lewis Hamilton is right behind me now in this Grand Prix as we go wide there through the exit of 1 and 2. That's going to give Hamilton with the DRS now a great chance here, down in towards 3. And unfortunately for me, that is a position lost against Lewis Hamilton. He's up into third place again, and there you can see is Sam and Piastri, which is why I can't afford to battle too hard, because if we scrap for too much longer, then they'll get pulled in the DRS train. And at the moment, a P3 and a P4 for Mercedes is not too bad at all, despite the fact, obviously, we're going to be wanting more as we go on to lap 27 of the Grand Prix now, setting ourselves up here, back inside a little bit versus Lewis Hamilton. But this time around here, we're going to try and go for it once again on Hamilton. We've got the inside line this time to go with. We're going to send it up the inside, get very close to Hamilton. I clipped the curb there, the red curb on the entry of that corner, and that nearly came close to disaster there, but we do manage to hold the position, and we're back up into third place, lap 28 here. Here goes Reese now for a run here on Carlos Sainz now, down in towards this corner. We seem to be getting so many overtakes in this corner, and Reese retakes the lead of the Australian Grand Prix ahead of his teammate Sainz, but they've got one more lap to try and sort it out between the pair of them. And also who's got one lap to sort it out between the pair of them is who's going to get onto the podium. We've just set our personal best there, 1:17.5, but now here comes Hamilton for a run at us now, down in towards turn 3. DRS is going to be enabled for the Mercedes driver. Round the outside he goes now into turn 3. We hold the position though versus Hamilton. This time around, there's enough of a gap for us to really get aggressive now in this Grand Prix, and that's what we're going to do. Stay aggressive and just be aggressive now. There's enough of a gap between Sam and Hamilton that I can't afford now to defend heavily, but the AIs crucially will be using all of their battery now on this straight, and you can see it right here because here comes Hamilton now with the straight line speed of the Mercedes using the battery, and he has breezed past us now in this race, and he's up into third place. But crucially, he's done that overtake too early because we go into the chicane now here using my second track extension warning for good measure. We've now got the DRS here. Now we can deploy our battery, and Hamilton's defenseless there against us now as we go in towards the final sector. We're back in front of Lewis Hamilton, but Carlos Sainz managed to overtake Reese and all of that, and Sainz is going to win the Australian Grand Prix. He beats Reese to the checkered flag for a 1-2 for Porsche. Round the final corner we come though. It's going to be a Mercedes 3-4. It's going to go in our favour in this race. What a Grand Prix. What a start to the season we have got here. And if every single race is going to be like this one, I'm going to be really, really mad, because I'm going to really struggle to try and capture every single battle and overtake on the racetrack. But what a race that was. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed racing on this game, and I'll be perfectly honest with you guys, the F1 22 in general is not a very good game, but by putting all of my mods and making massive changes to the performance of all the cars, it really has made the game a lot more fun. Anyway, as you can see, Carlos Sainz wins the Australian Grand Prix. He beats Reese by just 0.2 of a second at the checkered flag. We managed to come across the line in third place, just ahead of Lewis Hamilton, 11.7 seconds off the win we were, with Hamilton 11.9 seconds off. Really frustrating actually, especially for my race. We were around about 12 seconds behind the two Porsche cars before the first round of stops. After we actually came out of the pits and after we overtook Hamilton, we were about 16 seconds off. So, you know, we gained 5 seconds here. I mean, you know, if we took away the time lost in the pit stop of say 3-4 seconds, you know, we still wouldn't have been anywhere near the Porsche cars. But also, I felt like my qualifying let me down. If I was able to qualify a little bit higher, maybe I could have got myself involved in Porsche cars. But take nothing away from those two Porsches. You know, they were backmarker teams for, especially last season, but for many seasons now, they've been backmarker teams. But Porsche took every piece of commitment into a project to make their car in the new era the best car. And while today they were the best car and the best team. And, you know, congratulations to them. Oscar Piastri finishes in 5th for Ferrari. He did manage to overtake Sam in the end for P6, who actually got the fastest lap of the race. He set a 1:16.895 to be the fastest man on track. George Russell picks up points for Jaguar on their first race in the green livery. And Sergio Perez finishes in 8th place for Petronas Red Bull. A 10th of a second clear of Charles Leclerc in the Audi, who managed to pick up 2 points ahead of Colton Herta on his debut in Formula 1. Picks up points for Aramco Aston Martin. So congratulations to Colton Herta. And he was only 4/10 of a second off of P8 in the end. So credit where it's due to him. Looking at the second half of the table now, and as you can see, Pato O'Ward, again, a pat on the back for Pato, because he started the race last and he managed to fight his way back up to P11. Mason Wood returning to Formula 1 after his race ban, or his motorsport ban of 6 months. Or maybe in a year, actually. He is now P12 for BMW. Gasly finishes in 13th for Renault, with Bottas finishing in 14th for the second Audi car. Callum Ilott crosses the line in 15th place for Jaguar, with Nick de Vries claiming 16th for the second BMW. Lando Norris, it was a bad race from Norris, but unfortunately, the front wing damage and the collision on lap 1 basically ruined his entire race, and he needed a safety car to get back involved, and it didn't happen. Theo Porcher crosses the line in P18, and unfortunately for Stoffel Van Dorn and for Daniel Ricciardo, they did not see the checkered flag. They both DNF'd for the Australian Grand Prix. Looking now at the Drivers' Championship, well, it's exactly the same as the top 10 from the Grand Prix, obviously, as we've just had the one round. Obviously, the only change to the points is Sam, who got an extra point for the fastest lap, so he is on 9 points. Apart from that, everybody else is the same. Looking at the Constructors Championship to start this season off, and it is Porsche that took maximum points here today, so they have 43 points to their name, with us in the Mercedes lining in second place with 27 points. Ferrari picked up 10 points from this race today, with McLaren claiming 9 points in this race. Jaguar are 5th in the championship with 6 points, ahead of Red Bull with 4. Then we've got Audi claiming 2 points, and Aston Martin picking up 1 solitary point, with BMW and Renault not scoring. But for a first race of the season, 8 constructors out of the 10 picked up points. So I'm very satisfied with that. But there you go, guys. That is it for the first race of the season. Let's get straight into the post-race notebook and get the reaction from the teams and drivers after this Australian Grand Prix. So taking a look at the post-race notebook then, it was the perfect start to the season for Porsche. They did it in style with a dominant 1-2 finish, which left Rees and Sainz having some epic battles between themselves at the front of the field. Coming home in 3rd and 4th place was the Mercedes-Benz duo of Tom and Hamilton, with Tom just taking P3 from Hamilton, and once again, those two had a great battle between them. And that was something that Tom decided to speak out about in the press conference after the Grand Prix. He praised Lewis Hamilton for his respect on circuit whilst going for their battles. Tom and Hamilton battled for many laps either between each other or against each other, whilst also fighting other drivers on the grid. But crucially, whilst other drivers were costing each other a huge amount of time, Tom and Hamilton definitely made sure that when they were battling, they were not going to lose any time whatsoever, and just did it fair game. And it was something that Tom definitely praised Hamilton about, as there was plenty of respect between the two of them. Now, it was mixed fortunes for the Australian drivers at their home Grand Prix. For Daniel Ricciardo, he was having such a strong race for Renault, when unfortunately his engine gave way and he was left gutted after the Grand Prix, as he was not able to have an opportunity at, well, putting on a show for his home crowd. For Oscar Piastri, on the other hand, though, it was a fantastic race for him, finishing in P5 and certainly getting himself in the act with the likes of Tom, Hamilton and Sam, and as he was involved in that battle between all of them. And of course Sainz, who was the race winner here today, definitely had to put a little bit of caution when he was asked about his win in the press conference. Of course, it was a front row lockout for Porsche, and of course Sainz won the Grand Prix as well. So the questions definitely started to arise as to, well, can anybody catch Porsche, as it was such a dominant race victory? Sainz has had to very much play the cautious game on that one and state that it's obviously one Grand Prix, and they were fortunate enough to get away from the field whilst they were all battling each other. So that is it for the first round of the F1 Journey season number 10 here at the Australian Grand Prix. Next time around, we're going to be heading over to Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix, and let's see if Porsche can keep up their momentum heading into that weekend, or can any other team fight back. We'll see you then. Take care all.